Picture this. You are 60 years old and you depend on food stamps to survive. Every month, your EBT card gives you about $6.20 per day. That is the current national average according to the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities. It pays for eggs, bread, some vegetables, and maybe a little chicken when it goes on sale. It is not luxury, it is survival. Then a letter arrives in your mailbox from your state benefits office. The letter says you have 90 days to prove you are working or volunteering at least 80 hours every month. If you cannot prove it, your food assistance ends, not for 1 month, not for 60 days while you figure things out, for 33 consecutive months. That is nearly 3 full years without help buying groceries. You are 60 years old with a bad back and a bad knee. You have not worked steadily in years. You assumed people your age were safe from this kind of rule. That assumption is about to cost millions of Americans, between 55 and 64, their entire food budget. And here is what should terrify you. The Center on Budget and Policy Priorities estimates that more than 1 million adults ages 55 to 64 will lose food assistance because of this single law. The Congressional Budget Office puts the broader number at 2.4 million people total. If you are watching this and you rely on SNAP, the next 10 minutes could be the difference between keeping your groceries and losing them for almost 3 years. I have spent more than 20 years analyzing federal benefit programs, retirement regulations, and the policies that are supposed to protect older Americans from falling into poverty. I built this channel because too many people lose benefits they legally qualify for simply because nobody explained a rule change, a deadline, or a form in language they could understand. What I'm about to share with you today could protect more than $6,000 in food assistance. That is not a guess. The average SNAP benefit for adults over 50 is $188 per month, according to the National Council on Aging. Multiply that by 33 months, which is how long your benefits disappear if you fail to comply, and the total is $6,204. That money vanishes if you do not take the steps I am going to walk you through right now. Let me tell you about Robert. Robert is 62 years old. He lives in Ohio. He spent 28 years working in a warehouse until his company eliminated his position in 2022. Robert has arthritis in both shoulders and chronic lower back pain that makes standing for more than 30 minutes extremely difficult. He receives $142 per month in SNAP. It is not a fortune, but it keeps fresh food in his refrigerator. In late October of 2025, Robert received a notice from his county benefits office. It told him he was now classified as an able-bodied adult without dependents, which the government abbreviates as ABAWD. The notice said he had to document 80 hours of work activity per month or lose his food stamps. Robert looked at that letter, remembered that people over 55 were always exempt from this rule, and assumed it was sent by mistake. He did not call his caseworker. He did not visit his doctor for a medical exemption letter. He did not sign up to volunteer anywhere. 3 months later, Robert's EBT card was declined at the grocery store. When he called the county office, they told him his case was closed for ABAWD noncompliance. They told him he could not reapply for 33 months. That single assumption cost Robert more than $5,000 in food assistance. And what makes this tragic rather than inevitable is that Robert had multiple paths to keeping every dollar of those benefits. His arthritis qualified him for a medical exemption if his doctor had written a letter. He could have volunteered 20 hours a week at a local food pantry. He could have invoked the good cause provision because his lack of reliable transportation prevented consistent work activity. He had options that nobody explained to him. Here is what changed. On July 4th of 2025, President Trump signed the One Big Beautiful Bill Act into law. This legislation made the largest reduction to federal food assistance in American history, cutting SNAP funding by $186 billion through 2034, according to the Congressional Budget Office. Among its most consequential provisions, the law raised the ABAWD age ceiling from 54 to 64. Before this law, if you were 55 or older, you were completely exempt from the ABAWD time limit. You could receive SNAP without proving any work activity. That protection no longer exists. Under the new rules, every adult between 18 and 64 who does not hold a qualifying exemption must work, volunteer, or attend training for at least 80 hours per month or lose food assistance after just 3 months. These expanded requirements took effect on November 1st of 2025 according to USDA implementation guidance and are now being enforced in all 50 states. You can verify this at fns.usda.gov/snap/work-requirements and through AARP's reporting at aarp.org/advocacy/snap-work-requirements-what-to-no. Let me be precise about what the rule demands. If you are classified as an ABAWD, you must complete at least 80 hours per month of qualifying activity. That is approximately 20 hours per week, though your schedule can vary as long as the monthly total reaches 80. Qualifying activities include paid employment at any wage, unpaid volunteer work at a recognized organization, participation in a state-approved job training or education program, a combination of work and training totaling 80 hours, or state-assigned workfare. There is one alternative. If you earn at least $217.50 per week, which equals the federal minimum wage multiplied by 30 hours, you satisfy the requirement regardless of documented hours. Full details on qualifying activities are available at aarp.org/advocacy/how-to-meet-snap-work-requirements. The penalty for non-compliance is devastating. If you fail to meet the 80-hour requirement and hold no qualifying exemption, your SNAP benefits are limited to 3 months in any 36-month period. Once those 3 months expire, your benefits are terminated for the remaining 33 months. You cannot reapply. You cannot receive any food assistance during that lockout. The only way to restart is to demonstrate 30 consecutive days of compliance after the lockout period ends. Before this law, states could waive the ABAWD time limit in areas with high unemployment. That flexibility has been effectively eliminated. Under the new rules, waivers are only permitted when local unemployment exceeds 10%. That threshold has been reached nationally in only one single month during the entire Great Recession. As of early 2026, the USDA listed no active ABAWD time limit waivers anywhere in the country. Dottie Rosenbaum, Senior Fellow and Director of Federal SNAP Policy at the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, stated that the law removes state flexibility to apply for waivers in areas with high unemployment unless the rate spikes to 10%, calling that bar extremely high and saying it means far fewer people will be able to get help during the next economic downturn. 2 critical automatic exemptions were also eliminated. Veterans are no longer automatically exempt from SNAP work requirements. If you served in the military and received SNAP, you must now meet the 80-hour rule or qualify under a separate category such as disability. Individuals experiencing homelessness also lost their automatic exemption, despite the obvious difficulty of meeting work requirements without stable housing, transportation, or a reliable mailing address. Exemptions that remain include age under 18 or 65 and older receiving supplemental security income or Social Security disability insurance or VA disability compensation, pregnancy, caring for a child under 14 or an incapacitated household member, having a physician or licensed professional certify physical or mental inability to sustain work, and experiencing documented temporary personal hardship. But none of these exemptions activate automatically. You must provide documentation to your caseworker. Without that paperwork, the system classifies you as able-bodied and fully subject to the time limit. Let me address the 5 most dangerous misconceptions circulating right now. The first is that adults over 55 remain exempt. This was true before November 2025. It is completely false today. The second is that health problems automatically qualify you for an exemption. They do not. You need a formal written statement from a physician or licensed professional specifically certifying that your condition prevents you from sustaining 80 hours of monthly activity. The third misconception is that veterans are still protected. They are not. That automatic exemption was removed from law. The fourth is that your state will waive the requirement because jobs are hard to find locally. With the 10% unemployment threshold, that is virtually impossible. The fifth misconception is that this affects only a small number of people. AARP research documents that 2/3 of workers over age 50 have seen or directly experienced age discrimination in hiring. Rural communities face even greater challenges because part-time employment opportunities are limited, and childcare providers have declined steadily since 2017. Professor Cindy Leung of Harvard School of Public Health has noted that research consistently shows increasing work requirements leads to people losing benefits rather than gaining employment. Now, let me give you the protections you need to know about. Under federal regulations at 7 CFR, Section 273.15, every SNAP recipient has the right to request a fair hearing when benefits are reduced or terminated. You must file within 90 days of receiving an adverse notice. If you file before the effective date of the reduction, typically within 10 to 15 days of the notice depending on your state, your benefits may continue at their current level while the hearing is processed. The good cause provision protects you if you miss work hours for reasons beyond your control, such as medical emergencies, transportation failures, or family crises. And volunteering counts fully. 20 hours per week at any recognized nonprofit satisfies the 80-hour requirement completely. Here is your action plan. Step 1. Contact your local SNAP office this week. Go to fns.usda.gov/snap/state-directory and find your state's contact information. Call and ask 3 specific questions. Am I classified as an ABAWD? What is my compliance deadline? What documentation do I need to submit for an exemption? Also confirm that your mailing address and phone number in their system are correct. A missed notice leads to automatic case closure. Step 2. Gather your exemption documentation immediately. If you have any health condition that limits your ability to work 80 hours per month, visit your doctor and request a written statement specifically saying you cannot meet the work requirement due to your medical condition. If you receive SSI, SSDI, or VA disability, obtain your most recent benefit verification letter. If you provide caregiving for a child under 14 or an incapacitated household member, document that in writing and submit it to your caseworker proactively. Do not wait for anyone to ask you. Step 3. If you are able to work or volunteer, begin immediately and document everything. Keep a log of dates, hours, locations, and supervisor names. Obtain a signed letter from your volunteer coordinator. Save every pay stub. If you enroll in a training program, keep attendance records. The system demands proof. Your word alone will not preserve your benefits. And if your benefits are terminated despite your efforts, file a fair hearing request immediately. File within 10 days to keep receiving benefits during the appeal. The broader picture makes this even more urgent. SNAP lifted nearly 2 million adults over 50 out of poverty in 2022. In 2023, more than 12 million adults over 50 experienced food insecurity. Research published in the Annals of Internal Medicine found that SNAP participation is associated with fewer hospital admissions and lower healthcare costs for older adults. Losing food assistance does not reduce the need for food. It simply increases hardship, forces impossible choices between medications and meals, and drives people toward emergency rooms that cost taxpayers far more than food stamps ever did. Food banks are already overwhelmed. The Food Bank of Iowa reported in December that daily distribution jumped from 100,000 pounds to 170,000 pounds, stretching their budget, truck routes, and staff to breaking points. Groceries now cost 29% more than they did in 2020, making the gap between benefit amounts and actual food costs wider than ever. And this is not the last change coming. By early 2027, Medicaid will impose identical 80-hour monthly work requirements on non-disabled adults 18 through 64. Up to 9 million Medicaid enrollees ages 50 through 64 could face loss of health coverage under those rules. States must begin covering 75% of SNAP administrative costs in fiscal year 2027, up from 50%. States with payment error rates above 6% will be required to pay between 5 and 15% of actual benefit costs beginning in fiscal year 2028. These increased financial pressures could lead some states to restrict eligibility or reduce services. The Congressional Budget Office estimates states will collectively be required to contribute approximately $35 billion towards SNAP benefits. The ripple effects of these fiscal changes will be felt most acutely by older adults who are already the most vulnerable participants in the system. Do not let a missed letter or a wrong assumption cost you 3 years of food assistance. If you are between 55 and 64 and you receive SNAP, your 90-day window may already be running. The rules have changed. The old exemptions are gone. The waivers are gone. But your rights remain intact if you use them. Your doctor's letter counts. Your volunteer hours count. Your right to a fair hearing counts. You have options, but only if you act before the deadline passes. I have created a free senior benefits protection guide that walks you through every step. It includes the exact forms required, a checklist of exemption documentation, a volunteer hour tracking template, and state-by-state contact information for legal aid organizations that handle SNAP appeals at no cost. Click the link in the description to access it and join the alerts channel where I share deadline reminders and urgent rule changes before they hit the news. Share this video with every person you know between 55 and 64 who relies on food assistance. They need to see this before their window closes. And if this information helped you, subscribe so you do not miss what is coming next on Medicaid, Social Security, and every policy shift that affects your financial security. This is Social Security Decoded.